So this is the last one I'm going to be looking at in this little selection. This is quite an unusual one, and again, it's not one I would have particularly thought to pick up, but it just came in an eBay grouping with the magazine, which is nice. This is a Starfleet Academy flight training craft, and I recognised it fairly rapidly from the picture because, ironically, I've just been looking at the Federation attack fighter, and this is almost like a sort of precursor to it. But this was actually something that was used in Star Trek Next Generation, and Wesley Crusher's little elite gang of cadets used these ships to do flight training exercises, basically, which went horribly wrong, and that was the whole point of that particular episode. But we saw these ships doing sort of formation flying and that sort of thing, a bit like the Red Arrows. And the principle was it was just like a sort of a cut down version of a shuttlecraft. I'm not even sure if they were warp capable. So it'll be interesting to see from the magazine whether or not it says it is actually warp capable, because I'm not sure that it would have been. But I recall that they had emergency transporters and such like built into them. But I just don't know what else they could actually do. So this will be quite an interesting read. Slightly bent magazine. I'm going to have to do a little bit of straightening out in due course, but let's see if we can actually get into it for you. That's really badly bent, this one. Not good. So, here we go. Yeah, propulsion impulse, that makes perfect sense, because you wouldn't want cadets being able to warp around the solar system. That could end badly. Albeit it did anyway, of course. But it's a type training craft, Starfleet Academy, 24th century, 10.99 metres, 1 to 2 crew, propulsion, impulse. Lots of impulse apparently, but just impulse. And I would imagine this was a model back in the day, because Next Gen didn't really go in for CGI only ships. So I suspect this was a model. Yes, and normally just done by one pilot. So it's fairly, it's like having a sort of a prop training craft, basically. That's a nice sort of rear side view of it. Strange it hasn't got better windows. Actually, you would think for a training craft, you want it to have more visual visibility, just for the sake of orientation and everything else. Yeah, that's a random ship. USS Franklin, apparently. So you've got various cadets getting grilled on this. His cadet first class, Nicholas Lacamo, was leader of Nova Squadron, that's right. But he was also Dudar from Voyager, but playing a different role here, although similarly getting into trouble, of course, somewhat ironically. And that's then, it was nice, it was good graphics, because you had them doing sort of flybys around Saturn and so on there, so you had sort of 5 of them in close formation there. I'm surprised it's not mentioning that he was in Voyager. That is him, isn't it? His name won't come to me. Colvord Starburst. A spectacular but highly dangerous aerobatic space manoeuvre. Isn't that a contradiction in terms? How can you have an aerobatic space manoeuvre? Oh well. So impulse engine. That's a very large RCS thruster. Why would you have it with the impulse engine? Are those the impulse engines? The impulse engines are outlying, and that's okay. That's bizarre. Anyway. Sensor pilot atmospheric wing extension. Okay. Well, that's interesting. So they're saying that those wings actually retract then perhaps into the hull. That's interesting. I don't think they did, but presumably it sounds from that description like they could. Will Wheaton or Wesley Crusher, bless him. Good old Wheel. I love the fact that he turned up in the Big Bang Theory. That was terrific. And of course he's been in Picard since as well, but that's a story for another day. It still doesn't seem to be mentioning that guy as being Paris. Tom Paris, that's it. I knew it would come to me eventually. Brain's not functioning very quickly this time around. And there's him disappearing off, of course, ultimately. Yeah, it was very cool. Yeah, it was a nice one to have added. I've seen that now. I've got the I'm trying to think if I've got the Rhode Island. I haven't actually. I've got the Equinox, but not the Rhode Island. Now I have a hankering. That's always dangerous. Okay, let's get into the model now. It's cool though. I do love the little. I love the details in the magazine. I can see why people wanted to sort of keep following it, because beyond the models, the magazines themselves are a very good sort of quality product. I think it's fair to say. So if you do get you will still find these around the place. It's perfectly possible to pick up the magazines and so on eBay. Inevitably, people move their collections around and so on. So worth keeping an eye open if you're at all interested. Bit plasticky, very off-white for a Federation ship. Maybe that's the Starfleet Academy, I don't know. But nice sort of decals there for next generation version of the Starfleet insignia there. Actually, looks like it's got writing down the side of it. What does that say? I don't think the camera can quite get that. Oh, there we go. Oh, just United Federation of Planets. Right, okay, fair enough. But lots of little, still tiny little details, some blue writing there as well, if you can make it out. It almost looks a little bit like a Viper cockpit, actually, doesn't it, that? It looks more like a sort of, like a fighter pilot kind of cockpit, even more so than the Federation attack fighter I just looked at in some respects. It wouldn't be out of place in Battlestar Galactica or Buck Rogers, that, in some respects. Cool. I do. I mean, it's not their sort of their best and most complex model by any stretch of the imagination, but it's still nicely done. They've paid a lot of attention to detail to the the decals and the coloration and so on there. So it's up to their usual standard as you'd expect. It just isn't that hugely interesting a ship when all's said and done. But it's cool. It's cool. I quite like it. Right, let's get it on its stand, ready for the rustling. Pop it out of there. Yes, so actually they've called it Starfleet Academy Trainer. There you go. I'm not quite sure that's exactly what they called it. No, they called it a flight training craft. So that they've actually called it a different name on the bottom of the stand, confusingly. But presumably the magazine department and the labelling department weren't talking to each other on that day or something. Okay, that's good. That's a nice firm fit like that. There we are. There it is on stand for you. So yes, it's I mean it's nice enough little model. In fact, it's not even that little. Probably slightly larger than the attack fighter one was, but so really sort of interesting cream colour to it, rather than being sort of the bright white that the Federation ships normally are, or the grey that they are perhaps. Having it be sort of creamy coloured is actually quite unusual, but interesting little episode, and obviously not one of Wesley's shiniest hours as it turned out, but such is life sometimes. So that concludes my my Eaglemoss unboxing for this evening. I think I've covered off about a good 7 there. I think there are some others lurking in the background, but they'd be repeats. I've picked up a bird of prey to fix one that had lost its room disruptor, and I've got a duplicate of a Marquee Raider floating around as well, which I intend to sell off at some point. But that's it for now. So do like and subscribe, and obviously have a look at the earlier examples of Eaglemosses that I've now accumulated over the past year or so. Cheers for now.